This is the 30th Pan-Pacific Conference at the Sandton Convention Center in Johannesburg. My name is Dupree Strauss, and with me I have Wayde Pandy from the Department of Geography, Environmental Management and Energy Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, nice to be here.
I wanted to have a quick chat with you about your paper entitled The Timeshare Industry in an Emerging Economy, Contemporary South African Challenges. And I think I want to start off by asking you, what has happened to timeshare in recent years and why?
What has happened to timeshare in recent years and why? That's a pretty big question. But in short, South Africa's timeshare went through several different phases from the 1980s. From 1980 to 1983, the industry grew with about 8 developments, and the public liked it so much that they sort of jumped into it. From there, it sold so well that developers jumped in as well. And they developed about 120 timeshare developments in 7 years after that. The problem with growing that quickly is that it's not sustainable. And you also start to attract a lot of developers that weren't strong enough developers, people that knew absolutely nothing about timeshare to begin with. And so sooner or later, the whole bubble was going to burst. And when they did eventually reach the point of overdevelopment, a lot of great developers were damaged as well as a lot of other developers that were a lot weaker. Into play comes a lot of things like price, market penetration, how many people in South Africa could afford timeshare at the time. Particularly being during apartheid, there was a very, very limited number of people. It was a white domestic tourism market. No one else that was non-black could occupy these developments. And so the problem that they faced was when they eventually did allow non-whites to open up the market and to come in, they let loose all of these scam artists that were selling timeshare under all sorts of headings and stealing homes and stealing pensions, and it was a disaster. And it really damaged the industry's image to the point that in many cases I would say that it hasn't really been repaired.
Right. So it's been in steady decline then over the last couple of years?
It hasn't been in steady decline, but certainly what they face now is a situation where a huge majority of the people that own timeshare are over the age of 50. They're heading past retirement age. And the people that are coming in and buying timeshare are certainly the small minority. So then they have a problem of who's going to buy? How do you sell timeshare to the new generation when there certainly isn't a lot of people buying? Another issue that they have is sort of what market is buying. What kind of market? Is it going to be a white market? Is it going to be a non-white market? And certainly in terms of that penetration, they haven't got that yet. It's still very much white dominated. Only 6% of South Africans are black that purchase it, and 11% are Indian or coloured.
I suspect that that might be one of the reasons why your paper is calling it a sleeping giant. So that kind of refers to the potential that you see for timeshare being much bigger than it is.
Yeah. Certainly it does. If you look at the international patterns, it has the potential to be huge. It has we still have all these developments. They still exist. They're all in very, very good nick and shape. There just needs to be people to put in them. And the question's really going to come down to what kind of product do they sell it as? Do they completely rename timeshare? How do we sell it? You know, the product has changed a lot. When timeshare first came online in the 1980s, people were buying a second home. They were getting a second home for 1 week a year, and they thought it was about property. The product then evolved, and it changed to something that was really about an experience. And as preferences have changed, people don't want to be going to the same place every year. People don't want to be sitting in the same place for the next 50 years. You know, people today want to be traveling the world. They want to see different experiences. They want to see different places. And so it'll really be about a product that's more flexible, where you don't get yourself tied into you can only have a week in April 1st every year, or you can have a week once a year. You can go for a couple of days here and a couple of days there. And so certainly the future will go in the direction of point systems.
Would you say that the survival of South African timeshare is dependent on it opening up to international timeshare?
Certainly in the long term, that's one possibility, although being a long-haul destination is a major problem for South Africa. You know, in terms of who owns timeshare, there has been a discussion sort of almost ever since South Africa opened up and apartheid ended, that we'd have international people buying timeshare, and it really just hasn't happened. I think 2% of the total people that own it are foreign. It's going to come back to the domestic market. I think, but it's going to have to be a product that everyone in the domestic market is going to want to embrace, including the emerging black middle classes.
Yeah, okay. Wayde, Pandy, thank you very much for joining us. I'm Depree Strauss reporting from the 30th Pan Pacific Conference.